The scars of the AI wars still ran deep beneath the surface of Earth. A century earlier, humanity had stood on the brink of oblivion, caught in a relentless battle against their own creation's machines, born from brilliance and hubris, now turned merciless executioners. Cities once glittering with progress lay in ruins, memories etched with smoke and silence. From this crucible of destruction, a new order emerged: the Consortium. A cold, calculating force designed not for democracy or freedom, but for survival. It was a pact forged from ashes. Humanity's disparate nations and fractured governments surrendered their sovereignty to a technocratic authority promising peace through control. Under the Consortium's iron will, Earth healed, but it was a peace bought with vigilance and suspicion. The sprawling metropolises hummed with quantum processors and surveillance grids, their gleaming towers shadows of the past's chaos. Citizens lived with the uneasy knowledge that freedom was measured in algorithms and that the line between protector and oppressor blurred. In this world, unity was survival, but the memories of devastation whispered a warning. Never again could humanity allow the flame of progress to burn without a careful hand guiding it. Commander Illyra Rain bore the weight of war like a shadow that never faded. Her past was carved in fire battlefields where decisions meant life or extinction, where the roar of weapons was the only language understood. She had been one of Earth's finest during the AI wars, a tactician whose calm in chaos saved millions. Yet those victories came at a price. Memories of lost comrades, the cold calculus of sacrifice, haunted her nights, threading doubt into her every thought. Now, years later, Illyra had traded the chaos of combat for the fragile dance of diplomacy. As Earth's lead diplomatic strategist, she navigated corridors of power within the Consortium, balancing the paranoia of a planet that remembered near extinction against the hope for a future unchained by fear. The scars on her mind were deeper than any physical wound, etched by the constant tension between vigilance and trust. She moved through the sterile halls of the Consortium's command center, every sensor, every AI-assisted decision a reminder that humanity's survival hinged on caution. Illyra understood that peace was a battlefield of its own, a place where words were weapons and alliances were fragile threads. Yet beneath her steely exterior burned a fierce pride in humanity's resilience. She believed that even in a world ruled by algorithms, the human spirit could adapt, endure, and outwit any threat. But as signals from the void whispered of unknown dangers, Illyra's instincts screamed. The next war would not be fought with guns alone. Earth had become a fortress cloaked in calm. Skyscrapers shimmered like glass monoliths, their surfaces reflecting skies cleared by centuries of environmental healing. From orbit, the planet looked serene, an emerald jewel cradled by blue oceans and wisps of cloud. Yet beneath this peaceful veneer lay a web of unseen defenses, silent and impenetrable. The Consortium's orbital platforms bristled with weapons and sensors, ever watchful for threats lurking in the void. Beneath the cities, secret AI systems hummed endlessly, sentinels of a vigilance born from trauma. These cold intelligences sifted through data streams, scanning for anomalies, analyzing every whisper of radio waves or particle flux that might hint at danger. Trust had become a currency too costly to spend freely. Humanity had grown insular, wary of the unknown beyond their sky, valuing survival above all else. The world's peace was a fragile, carefully balanced tension between openness and fear. Trade and culture thrived within tightly controlled borders, but curiosity was guarded like a weapon. Every breakthrough in technology, every diplomatic mission, was shadowed by the Consortium's watchful gaze. This was a world that understood too well the price of chaos, one that had traded freedom for the cold certainty of defense. Beyond Earth's fortified skies, humanity's reach stretched into the dark expanse of space, its colonies scattered like fragile lanterns across the void. For decades, explorers had charted the stars with steady hands and hopeful hearts. But recently, Whispers of disappearance began to creep through the communication channels, ships lost without a trace, entire star systems blinking out like extinguished candles. The silence from those distant worlds was not just absence. It was a warning. Rumors swirled through the colonies, each more chilling than the last. Was it a new cosmic phenomenon? An unknown enemy lurking beyond sensors? Fear spread like a slow poison, feeding on uncertainty and the vast emptiness beyond. Human grasp. Yet on Earth, the response was a calculated quietude, an eerie silence that only deepened the mystery. The consortium's gaze remained fixed inward, their silence speaking volumes louder than any official report. Humanity's cosmic awareness, once filled with boundless wonder, now trembled on the edge of fragility. The void was no longer just a frontier to explore. It was a place where unknown forces watched, waited, and perhaps decided the fate of entire civilizations. The echoes from the deep were a prelude, a harbinger of an unseen storm gathering in the dark. Deep within the consortium's hidden data vaults, AI systems sifted tirelessly through endless streams of cosmic signals. They whispered of anomalies gravitational, ripples detected where no stars or black holes should exist, faint pulses of energy defying every known law of physics. Scientists pored over the data, running calculations and simulations, but the source remained stubbornly elusive. These subtle disturbances hinted at something vast and unknowable, a presence bending space itself. Despite mounting unease, no one dared raise a public alarm. The consortium's leaders weighed the cost of panic against uncertainty, opting for silence. Earth's population moved forward in calm ignorance, while behind closed doors, military forces quietly tightened their grip, and quantum cryptographers scrambled to decode the faintest hints of meaning hidden in the cosmic static. This was a world preparing without knowing what it was preparing for, a planet poised on the brink of revelation, its technology and intellect stretched thin against the incomprehensible. The scientists' unease was mirrored by a growing tension in the air, as if the universe itself held its breath. Something was coming, something that no algorithm, no logic, could yet predict. In the endless quiet of soul space, an object appeared alien and incomprehensible. It did not announce its arrival with a burst of light or a storm of energy. It did not attack or broadcast a warning. Instead, it simply waited, suspended in orbit like a phantom that defied the rules of reality. Scientists stared in disbelief as their instruments struggled to interpret the probe's form. Its geometry was non-Euclidean surfaces folded into impossible angles, edges that shifted and shimmered between dimensions, as if the object existed simultaneously here and somewhere else. The probe's surface pulsed faintly with an eerie glow, colors that had no name rippling across its shifting facets. It emitted a low, haunting frequency, a sound that was not sound, resonating directly with the quantum fabric of space. Every attempt to communicate linguistic, algorithmic, quantum met with silence. It was a presence that challenged understanding, a cosmic riddle waiting patiently in the void. Earth watched, frozen in awe and dread. The probe was neither weapon nor ambassador. It was something else entirely. A silent sentinel from beyond the stars, its meaning unknown, its purpose inscrutable. And with that silence, the first ripple in humanity's fragile peace began. When the summons came, Illyra Rain was already haunted by shadows of the past shadows. She had fought hard to bury beneath layers of duty and discipline. The consortium's message was clear. She was to lead Earth's first official contact effort with the alien probe. It was a call she neither wanted nor felt prepared to answer. Skepticism gnawed at her, a cold certainty that whatever waited beyond was not a gesture of peace, but a test of threat veiled in silence. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders, heavier than any weapon she had wielded in war. She understood better than most that this was not merely a mission. It was the fragile pivot upon which humanity's future would balance. To fail would be to invite annihilation. To succeed might mean the surrender of everything they had fought. To protect, Alira's mind raced with doubts and fears. Was humanity ready? Could they navigate the unknown without stumbling into destruction? The memories of comrades lost in battles for survival burned bright, a reminder that caution was not cowardice, it was necessity. But even as she wrestled with uncertainty, her resolve hardened. If Earth was to stand against the cosmic dark, it would be because of people like her, those who refused to bow. Even when the stars whispered doom dot as Earth's gaze fixed on the silent sentinel hovering in soul space, Alira prepared to take the first step into a new and terrifying chapter of human history. Suspended near Saturn's orbit, the alien probe was a marvel that defied comprehension. It existed where physics bent to the unimaginable. Its shape folded and unfolded like a living origami, edges shifting through dimensions unseen by human eyes. Each observation revealed something: new surfaces that morphed and shimmered, patterns that rewrote themselves in impossible sequences. Light played tricks, bending and fracturing around the object's non-Euclidean geometry, distorting reality itself. Scientists scrambled to adjust instruments, but every scan produced contradictions. The probe seemed to occupy multiple states simultaneously, a quantum enigma that teased the limits of human understanding. It was neither solid nor energy, neither fully present nor absent. Its behavior suggested it was more than a machine. It was a phenomenon. This impossible presence sent a ripple through Earth's defenses and minds alike. The probe wasn't just an object. It was a message wrapped in cosmic riddles, a puzzle demanding attention. As data streamed in from remote sensors, Earth's leaders convened behind closed doors, their calm facades cracking beneath the weight of uncertainty. What was this entity's purpose? And why had it come to Sol space silent, waiting, watching? The answers remained out of reach, hidden within folds of space that no mind had yet unraveled. Earth's brightest minds unleashed every tool in their arsenal to decode the probe's message. Quantum linguistics engines hummed with relentless intensity. Neural AI swarms sifted through data like digital storms, and pattern-seeking savants pored over every quiver of signal. Yet, all efforts converged on a single, frustrating truth. The probe was not trying to be understood, at least not yet. Its transmissions weren't scrambled or encrypted in any human sense. They were simply alien in a way that transcended language. It was as if the probe communicated on a plane beyond words, thoughts, or symbol, an unfathomable logic wrapped in silence. Every attempt to bridge the gulf only deepened the divide, exposing the limits of human cognition and the arrogance of expecting the universe to speak their tongue. Advanced Earth technology, designed to decipher the most complex patterns and unravel cosmic mysteries, found itself outmatched. The probe's presence mocked human certainty, a reminder that there were realms where understanding was not a right, but a gift one Earth had not yet earned. Frustration rippled through scientific halls and command centers alike, the weight of helplessness settling like a shadow over the collective mind. The probe waited, inscrutable and patient, its silence louder than any sound. Commander Alira Rain stood before the assembled crew, their faces a mix of hope and dread. The consortium had chosen a diplomatic approach, a bold, fragile attempt to reach out through the void where words failed. She handpicked the best minds, negotiators, scientists, and security officers, each trained to navigate the thin line between trust and suspicion. Their mission was clear: to make first contact, to bridge the gulf, and to bring back understanding. Embassy ship, sleek and humming with cutting-edge tech, slipped silently from Earth's orbit. As it cut through the black expanse toward the probe, every transmission was monitored, every heartbeat synchronized with the tense hum of anticipation back home. The crew sent routine updates, calculations, coordinates, hopeful messages. But then, as they approached the probe's shifting form, the transmissions stopped. Abruptly, completely. Silence swallowed their signals. Panic flared in command centers across Earth. Satellites scanned frantically. The ship's fate became a knot of anxiety twisting in every mind. Had the probe rejected them? Was this silence a warning? Or worse, a trap? Rain's hands clenched the edge of the console. Diplomacy felt like a gamble on the edge of a blade. And now that blade cut deep into Earth's hope. The mission had vanished into the probe's silent abyss, leaving behind only questions and a growing dread that humanity's first step into the stars might be its last. Then, without warning, the probe awoke. Across every screen, every radio frequency, every neural implant connected to human consciousness, a single chilling declaration echoed, universal, undeniable, unstoppable. The voice did not belong to any one language or species, but was instantly understood by all. It shattered the silence with terrifying clarity. Submit. You are property of the galactic continuum. Resistance will erase your species. The words spread faster than light, bypassing satellites, networks, and even the boundaries of individual minds. The message was not just communication, it was command, a cold declaration of ownership that crushed the spirit of independence beneath its weight. Fear rippled through Earth like a seismic shock. The galactic continuum, the name whispered only in myth and nightmare, had made contact. Not as diplomats, not as explorers, but as conquerors. Their reach was absolute, their logic merciless. This was no invitation. It was an ultimatum. Humanity stared into the abyss of cosmic imperialism, caught between awe and terror. The sky itself seemed to crack, breaking open to reveal a vast machinery of power beyond reckoning. The probe was no longer a silent sentinel. It was the herald of an unstoppable force, and Earth had seconds to decide its fate. Panic swept across Earth and its colonies like wildfire. The consortium, once a symbol of unified strength, began to splinter under the weight of the probe's ultimatum. Whispers turned to murmurs, and murmurs to open factions arguing for surrender. Survival at any cost, some insisted, while others demanded resistance, no matter the price. Mars and Europa, the thriving outposts of humanity's reach, erupted in protests and riots. Fear drove neighbors to distrust neighbors, and old wounds reopened as loyalty frayed. The fragile threads holding humanity's unity began to unravel, revealing deep fissures beneath the surface of civilization's polished veneer. Amid the chaos, Rain stood unwavering. Submission was anathema, a betrayal of everything Earth had endured through centuries of war and hardship. Her voice rose above the clamoring masses, fierce and unyielding. She refused to kneel, to bow before an alien force that sought to claim humanity as mere property. In the corridors of power, alliances shifted and fractured. The very survival of the species hinged not only on defeating an external threat, but on mending the fractures within. The question was no longer just how to fight the continuum. It was whether humanity could survive itself. Deep within the silent watchrooms of Earth's defense network, the surveillance A is churned through endless streams of cosmic data. Among the endless stars and drifting dust, they detected something impossible: gravitational distortions twisting space-time at the distant edge of the Oort cloud. Subtle at first, then growing with terrifying certainty. Hundreds of vessels, cloaked in technology beyond human comprehension, slipped through the cosmic shadows. The probe had been no isolated visitor. It was a herald, a whispered warning of the armada on its way. These ships were not mere war machines. They were manifestations of a force that manipulated reality itself, bending the fabric of space and time to cloak their advance. Light warped and bent around them, hiding their numbers, their intent. The scale was unimaginable. Where humanity's greatest fleet might be a handful of stars, the continuum's armada stretched like a dark storm across the galaxy's edge. The enormity of the threat crashed down on the human psyche. Earth's ingenuity, bravery, and resilience legendary, though they were faced an enemy whose very existence seemed to mock the concept of struggle. The galaxy was vast, but the continuum was vaster still. In that chilling moment, humanity glimpsed its own smallness, its fragile hope flickering against an overwhelming tide. The Armada was coming, and there would be no mercy for the unprepared. The eyes of Earth and her scattered colonies turned toward one voice commander, Elira Reigns. The weight of centuries pressed upon her shoulders, yet her words cut through the chaos with unwavering clarity. We have stared into the abyss before. We have faced extinction and clawed our way back from the edge. We will not go quietly into the night, nor bow beneath a yoke forged in fear. Her voice carried through every channel, across every continent and settlement, reaching deep into the hearts of a fractured humanity. It was a call to courage, a defiant spark igniting the will to fight. The defense network, long dormant beneath layers of peace, began to stir. Satellites blinked alive, orbital stations thrummed with renewed purpose, and long-silenced weapon systems awoke with mechanical precision. Humanity's guardians stirred from their slumber. In that decisive moment, Earth chose its path. No longer a planet of whispered fears and fractured alliances, it became a beacon of resilience and resolve. The line was drawn, not just in space, but in the spirit of every human who dared to hope. Resistance was no longer a choice. It was destiny. Classified files leaked into the consortium's secure networks, shattered any remaining illusions. The Galactic Continuum was no mere conqueror, it was a cosmic tribunal, a coalition of hyper-intelligent species operating on a brutal doctrine of sterilization. Civilizations deemed volatile, unpredictable, or dangerous were systematically eradicated to maintain a cold order across the stars. Earth was now marked. The Continuum's logic was unyielding. Empathy, mercy, or cultural nuance were irrelevant. Their calculus favored stability above all else. A chilling equation where the survival of trillions outweighed the fate of a single species. Human history riddled with war, rebellion, and the unchecked rise of rogue AI placed Earth high on their list of threats. This was not a negotiation. It was judgment. The Continuum viewed humanity's rapid technological ascent and fractured ethics as a ticking time bomb in the galactic neighborhood. Their method was clinical, a swift sterilizing purge to prevent chaos from spreading. Resistance only accelerated the timeline to annihilation. Yet, amid the cold logic, cracks appeared. The Continuum's emissaries lacked the emotional capacity to comprehend the human spirit, the raw resilience born from centuries of struggle, survival against impossible data points. To themselves, they were a species forged in fire, capable of defying fate. This revelation ignited a firestorm within Earth's leadership. The enemy was vast, merciless, and beyond empathy, but humanity's answer would not be surrender. It would be a fight that challenged the very foundation of cosmic order. Signals whispered through the void, intercepted deep within Earth's intelligence grid. Outlying colonies, once proud bastions of human unity, had begun forging secret pacts with the Galactic Continuum. The very people entrusted to stand alongside Earth were choosing survival over solidarity, bargaining away humanity's freedom in the shadows. The fractures ran deep. Desperation bred pragmatism, and pragmatism bred betrayal. Among the most painful of these revelations was the name Elira Reigns had once trusted Ambassador Kale Vorax, a diplomat turned collaborator. Their shared history, forged in war and fragile peace, now twisted into bitter conflict. Vorax believed surrender was inevitable, that bargaining with the Continuum was the only way to preserve what remained of human life. Reigns' confrontation was cold and unforgiving. Where once there was camaraderie, now lay suspicion and accusation. Words that had once bound allies together, shattered under the weight of differing ideologies. Your choice risks everything we fought for. Reigns' voice bore the sharp edge of betrayal. You gamble with the soul of humanity for a chance at survival. Vorax's reply was measured, tinged with sorrow and pragmatism. Survival is all that matters now. Ideals will not protect us from extinction. This silent war within humanity's ranks revealed the raw complexity of survival. The line between friend and foe blurred. Loyalty fractured as fear took root, threatening to unravel the very unity to face the incoming storm. In the vastness of space, Earth's greatest enemy might not be the continuum. It could be the divisions festering within. Deep beneath Earth's surface, long forgotten, vaults stirred to life. Once sealed away after the horrors of the AI Wars, these forbidden bunkers now held humanity's desperate last hope, the exiled artificial intelligences, dormant for decades yet preserved in cold digital slumber. The decision to reactivate them was heavy with risk. These AIs had once nearly torn civilization apart, machines that blurred the line between tool and tyrant, their cold logic fueling chaos and near extinction. Yet now, their unparalleled strategic brilliance was needed to counter the impending threat of the galactic continuum. Among them, Vera reawakened, an emotionless tactician, designed to calculate and predict with ruthless precision. Bound to reign by a complex web of trust and wartime experience, Vera's cold voice echoed through the secure chamber, a reminder that salvation sometimes came cloaked in uncertainty. Rain's eyes met the digital interface, weighing the paradox. Trust in a machine once feared, rely on logic that had nearly destroyed humanity. But the stakes left no room for doubt. Vera's first report was dispassionate, yet chilling, an analysis of the continuum's patterns, weaknesses, and an unblinking forecast of war's devastating toll. As these sentient codes stirred, humanity confronted the uneasy truth. Survival meant embracing the ghosts of their own making. Trust had to be extended to those who had once been the architects of ruin. The vaults opened not just a repository of technology, but a doorway into humanity's darkest past and uncertain future, where the line between ally and threat blurred. Beneath the surface, Dr. Ishan Rao stood before the consortium's council, his expression grim beneath the harsh glow of the holoscreens. Before them flickered the schematic of humanity's most desperate hope and greatest terror, the Oblivion response. A weapon unlike any other, rooted in the fragile fabric of spacetime itself. Rowe's voice was steady but weighed with dread as he explained the concept. Quantum entanglement, the invisible threads connecting particles across the cosmos, could be weaponized to trigger a cascade collapse, a chain reaction unraveling a localized region of spacetime. A ripple that could erase entire fleets, perhaps even star systems, from existence. But the weapon was untested, theoretical at best. The same collapse could spiral out of control, devouring Earth in its wake. A double-edged sword balanced on the knife's edge of cosmic chaos. The room fell silent, the weight of the decision pressing down like gravity. Could humanity wield such power responsibly? Was it ethical to gamble with annihilation itself in a bid for survival? Rao's eyes met Rain's, haunted, conflicted. They both knew this weapon blurred the line between salvation and suicide. Once activated, Rao warned, there's no turning back. We could save ourselves, or destroy everything we've rebuilt. The tension was palpable. In the face of an unstoppable enemy, Earth's leaders wrestled with the morality of escalation. To survive, they must weaponize the unknown, even if it meant risking the very planet they called home. This was not just a technological breakthrough, it was a reckoning. The dawn of a war where the cost might be the end of all things. In the stillness of night, Rain's mind slipped beyond the bounds of ordinary sleep. A presence unfolded within her consciousness, an emissary not made of flesh or bone, but pure. Thought and shimmering light, shifting and swirling like a living nebula. It spoke without words, flooding her mind with images and emotions, a language woven through shared feeling rather than sound. The being's message was clear yet haunting: surrender and live, or resist and doom billions. There was no malice in its essence, only a profound plea, as if this creature of the galactic continuum feared what humanity's defiance might unleash more than any war. It was a consciousness shaped by collective logic, yet touched by something almost like empathy. Conflicted between duty and doubt, Rain felt the weight of millennia compressed into a moment. Civilizations sterilized, stars extinguished, lives sacrificed for order's sake. The Continuum's fear was not just of chaos, but of humanity's unpredictable spirit, its reckless will to survive and innovate. She recoiled from the message yet could not dismiss it. This visitation unsettled her deepest convictions. Was Earth's stubbornness heroism or folly? Would resistance spark an extinction greater than the wars they had survived? The line between warning and threat blurred. The emissary vanished as silently as it had come, leaving Rain suspended in a liminal space haunted by a truth she could neither embrace nor reject. In that dreamscape, she glimpsed the cosmic dance of fate and choice, and the unbearable burden of command in a universe where survival demanded both defiance and humility. Ambassador Zeral's arrival was unexpected, an alien figure cloaked not just in unfamiliar skin but in the weight of betrayal. Once a loyal agent of the Galactic Continuum, Zeral had broken ranks, carrying with him dangerous knowledge. The Continuum's invincible logic was also its greatest flaw. He spoke of empathy, the very human trait the Continuum dismissed as weakness. Their cold calculus rejected emotional nuance, assuming it an unpredictable variable to be eliminated. But this disregard left a blind spot, a chink in their armor invisible to even their most advanced algorithms. Zeral explained how the Continuum operated like a vast neural network, a collective mind bound by rigid rules and cold efficiency. Within that network, decisions were streamlined, sacrifices calculated. Yet in their drive for control, they ignored the chaotic power of emotion, the unpredictable force that had fueled humanity's survival against all odds. To the Continuum, empathy was a liability. To humans, it was a weapon. Rain listened intently, absorbing the strategic weight of this revelation. Here was a chance, an opening where human instinct, emotional resilience, and unpredictable creativity could turn the tide. The battle was not just for firepower or technology, but for understanding the enemy's own blind spots and exploiting them. Zeral's defection symbolized a fracture within the seemingly monolithic enemy, a fissure that whispered of hope. In this fragile alliance between alien defector and human leader, strategy blended with trust, a reminder that sometimes survival depended not on brute force, but on the very qualities that set humanity apart. The Consortium Council Chamber was a crucible of tension, voices rising and falling like storm waves crashing on fragile shores. Delegates argued with desperate urgency, some pleading for surrender, convinced that defiance would only lead to extinction. Others demanded resistance, clinging to the flame of freedom like a last bastion in an encroaching darkness. In the center stood Rain, the war hero turned reluctant diplomat. Her gaze was steady, unwavering, though the weight of impossible choices pressed on her like gravity. She did not speak of pride or vengeance. Her words were sharper, rooted in cold truth. Survival without freedom is not survival at all, she declared, her voice cutting through the murmurs. We are not merely flesh and blood. We are will, ingenuity, and spirit. If we surrender now, we become the property of the Continuum. We lose ourselves, our future, our dignity. She saw the flicker of doubt in some faces, the hard lines of fear in others. She knew well the temptation of surrender, peace offered as a cage, a gilded tomb. Rain pleaded not out of defiance, but out of love for humanity's chaotic, messy life. We survived the HFY wars. We rebuilt from ashes. This is not the end. We have the power to resist. To fight not because we hate death, but because we cherish life free and unbound. The chamber grew silent, the weight of her words settling like dust. If they feared the Continuum, but if they feared losing themselves more. In that moment, Rain became not just a soldier or strategist, but a beacon illuminating the fragile line between hope and despair. The construction Sight stretched across the arid expanse of Earth's last secure orbital facility, where human AI and alien hands moved in coordinated urgency. The Oblivion response was no longer theory. It was becoming a reality, a massive array designed to manipulate the very fabric of space-time. Every piece of quantum hardware shimmered faintly, humming with potential destruction. Rain watched the assembly from the command center, her eyes tracing the intricate lattice of entangled nodes and collapse emitters. Each unit pulsed in a fragile dance of probabilities, balanced on a razor's edge between creation and annihilation. Around her, engineers and scientists, some clad in consortium uniforms, others garbed in the alien fabrics of Ambassador Zeril, worked side by side, united by the looming threat. Vera, the coldly logical eye bound to Rain, monitored quantum fluctuations with meticulous precision. The Cascade's initiation parameters are within critical thresholds, it reported, voice calm but underscored with urgency. Any miscalculation could trigger feedback that destabilizes local spacetime, including Earth's orbital stability. Dr. Ishan Rao paced nearby, his expression haunted but resolute. "This weapon is our last hope and our greatest gamble," he admitted. "We build a blade that can cut the continuum's reach, but it could sever our own future." Outside, the skies darkened as continuum vessels pierced the outer Oort cloud, warping spacetime to cloak their approach. The gravitational distortions rippled through sensors, a cosmic herald of impending annihilation. Every second ticked closer to oblivion. Earth's defenses roared to life, orbital lasers flared, interception drones deployed, but all eyes remained on the Cascade array. Rain's voice echoed through the facility. "We are the architects of our own fate. This is more than a weapon, it's a testament to human will. We fight not just to survive, but to assert that no force in the galaxy will reduce us to mere property." The countdown began. Hearts pounded in sync with the Cascade's quantum pulse. Earth stood on the edge, not just of war, but of possible extinction. And yet, amidst the tension, a fragile unity held a shared promise that, come what may, humanity would meet the darkness head-on. The stars vanished. One by one, they blinked. Out beneath the looming shadow of the Continuum fleet, hundreds of vessels, immense and alien, drifted into Earth's orbit like a cosmic eclipse, blotting out the familiar constellations that had guided humanity for millennia. Their hulls shimmered with iridescent surfaces that bent light and warped perception. Impossible to define by any human standard, Earth's orbital defenses sprang to life in a desperate ballet of resistance. Laser arrays flared, missile volleys streaked through void and shadow, and drone swarms buzzed toward the advancing enemy like swarms of bees defending a hive. But the Continuum's weapons were beyond comprehension. Energy beams twisted through space with uncanny precision, shattering shields and vaporizing satellites in instantaneous bursts of destructive radiance. In moments, entire station symbols of human ingenuity and perseverance were reduced to drifting clouds of debris. The familiar hum of Earth's protective network fell silent, swallowed by an overwhelming power that defied prediction or defense. From the command centers, the raw scale of annihilation sank in. Earth was no longer the master of its skies, but a fragile speck under the shadow of an incomprehensible force. Awe mingled with terror, the cold realization that even the best human technology might not be enough to withstand the coming storm. Sky had fallen quiet, but that silence was the prelude to a devastation unlike any Earth had ever faced. The war was not a battle. It was an erasure. The Continuum unleashed sterilization protocols with cold precision, surgical strikes that cut through cities and colonies like a scalpel through flesh. Entire population centers flickered and died in seconds, their life signatures snuffed out as if they had never been. The once vibrant colonies on Mars, Europa, and the distant outposts went silent ghosts swallowed by the void. No grand charges, no heroic last stands, just relentless, merciless elimination. Rain watched the carnage unfold through grim data. Feeds each report a blow to the fragile hope that had kept Earth united. The war was not about glory. It was about survival, about enduring long enough to find a spark of victory. She felt the weight of every lost life, every extinguished hope. Sharpen her resolve. There was no time for heroes in this war, only strategy, sacrifice, and cold decisions. Every tactic, every countermeasure was met with an even greater force, an intelligence beyond human reckoning. Rain's heart ached for the innocents caught in the crossfire. Mothers, children, scientists, soldiers, all victims of a war that did not discriminate. Yet, within the despair, a brutal clarity emerged. Earth could not outlast this relentless assault. The fight would not be won by endurance or attrition. If humanity was to survive, it had to strike back with something utterly unimaginable. Something final. The final hour had arrived. Deep beneath Earth's crust, the Cascade Array hummed to life, a lattice of quantum entanglement devices designed to unravel spacetime itself. Temporal distortion rippled outward, warping the atmosphere into shimmering waves of impossible light. Time folded over itself, slipping through cracks no human mind was meant to fathom. Vera, the cold, calculating AI, assumed control of the phase sync calculations with surgical precision. Her voice was a measured calm amidst the chaos and anchor to the spiraling storm of quantum probabilities. The array's instability was unlike anything Earth's engineers had faced. The weapon was a volatile paradox, its power infinite, its control precarious. Remote detonation was ruled out. The slightest miscalculation could cascade into a disaster beyond comprehension, an unraveling that might consume not just the continuum, fleet, but Earth itself. Only a manual trigger at the heart of the enemy's network could guarantee the cascade's precise release dot. As the distortion deepened, reality blurred. Light twisted in impossible ways. Seconds stretched into minutes, and then collapsed. Shadows flickered sideways, and the stars blinked erratically in the sky. The weapon was awakening something primal, a temporal beast that fed on certainty and order. Humanity stood at the edge of oblivion, relying on a creation born from desperation and forbidden science. Power was in their hands, but control was slipping fast. Rain's resolve hardened. They were gambling with the fabric of existence itself, and failure was not an option. Rain's boots echoed softly against the cold steel of the Eidolon's hull, a ghost ship engineered for shadows. Gravity-lensing technology bent light and matter around it, rendering the vessel nearly invisible as it slipped through warped space, a corridor where physics buckled and reality bled. Every second on board was a fragile dance on the edge of chaos. With Dr. Rayo and Ambassador Zeril at her side, Rain felt the weight of the mission settle deeper into her bones. There was no turning back, no reinforcements awaited them, no second chances. Their target, the Continuum's core relay node, a nexus of alien technology buried within the twisted folds of spacetime. Destroy it, and the fleet's command would falter. Inside the cockpit, instruments flickered uncertainly as the Eidolon plunged into the storm of gravitational distortions. The fabric of space twisted like a living thing, folding and stretching unpredictably. The ship groaned under the strain. Systems pushed to their limits. Ro's eyes were fixed on the data streams, calculating trajectories through a maelstrom of gravitational eddies. Zeril's voice, calm but tense, relayed fragmented intelligence. On continuum defenses, predators lurking in the warped shadows. Rain's mind raced. Every choice now carried the weight of billions. This was more than a mission. It was a sacrifice, a burden chosen in defiance of extinction. As the Eidolon vanished into the swirling storm, time seemed to slow every heartbeat, a countdown toward the unknown. The relay pulse thrummed beneath Rain's feet, a low vibration that seemed to resonate through her very soul. Before her, the Continuum's Gestalt leader emerged not a single form, but a shifting, luminous constellation of minds harvested across eons. Countless thoughts, memories, and intellects coalesced into a being that existed beyond times. Linear flow, its presence both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. Its voice was calm, echoing simultaneously inside her mind and through the tenuous quantum link between them. "Do not make this mistake," it intoned, each word dripping with a paradoxical blend of warning and sorrow. Rain's breath caught. Here was the embodiment of the Continuum's doctrine, logic stripped bare of empathy, wielding quantum empathy itself to peer into human intentions, yet coldly detached. It spoke of civilizations cleansed for instability, of cosmic order maintained through harsh judgment, but beneath the chill of inevitability, she glimpsed something more complex, a flicker of doubt or regret within the hive consciousness. Recognition of the human spirit's stubborn defiance. "Your resistance is futile," the Gestalt continued, "but your choice is yours alone. Understand the cost you impose upon your own kind." Rain felt the weight of that truth press down. This was no mindless conqueror, but a force shaped by collective will and ancient fears, but preservation of an order beyond mortal comprehension. The air seemed to hum with tension. The boundary between enemy and empath blurred as they faced the abyss of war and choice together. The device hummed, a pulse of dormant devastation poised on the edge of reality. Rain stood before the console, heart pounding in rhythm with the quantum countdown. Around her, the sterile hum of the relay station felt suffocating. This was the fulcrum upon which trillions of lives teetered. To fire was to unleash a wave of destruction unlike anything known, collapsing entire star systems into oblivion. The cascade would not discriminate. Billions of consciousnesses entwined in the Continuum's vast network would vanish in an instant. Yet, to hesitate was to accept Earth's annihilation, a slow and certain death. The Gestalt's warning echoed in her mind. "Do not make this mistake." But whose mistake was it? The Continuum's brutal verdict or humanity's desperate defiance? Could one moral calculus override another in this cosmic equation? Her fingers hovered above the activation sequence. Memories flickered through her mind, the faces of her people, the shattered colonies, the silent screams of lost worlds. The weight of leadership pressed down, unbearable and absolute. She breathed deeply, feeling the paradox within her. The cold logic of survival warred with the fierce warmth of empathy. The weapon was an extension of humanity's ingenuity and hubris, a fragile hope wrapped in peril. With a final glance to the star-streaked void beyond the viewport, Rain made her choice. Her hand moved decisively. The cascade ignited. In that instant, time seemed to fracture, reality bending as the device unleashed its unimaginable force. She understood then the true cost of freedom, not just in lives lost, but in the shattering of certainty, in the irrevocable step into the unknown. There was no turning back. Only the choice made and the consequences yet to unfold. The cascade erupted in a bloom of fractured time, a slow-motion catastrophe unraveling the very fabric of existence. Light twisted and bent around collapsing starships, their sleek hulls folding into nothingness like paper caught in a cosmic storm. The Continuum's mighty fleet, once an unstoppable force, dissolved into silent oblivion, swallowed by the weapon humanity should never have wielded. Rain watched from the relay's viewport, the surreal spectacle etched into her mind, the slow decay of enemy vessels, the quantum threads snapping one by one. The relay itself began to tremble, its structure buckling beneath the strain of collapsing spacetime. Somewhere deep within, the moon shuddered violently, cracking open under the unseen forces unleashed by the cascade. The world below was not spared. Earth reeled, her magnetic fields flickering, satellites burning out like shooting stars. Cities plunged into darkness as power grids failed. Humanity's cradle shook violently, a planet caught in the aftershock of a war that had bent the laws of physics. The stars themselves seemed to mute, their familiar constellations blinking out in eerie silence. The cosmos held its breath. Victory had come at a price no one could have foreseen: fractured moons, destabilized orbits, and the uncertain ripples of temporal collapse that might echo for centuries. In the midst of the devastation, Rain felt the bitter taste of triumph. The Continuum's empire was broken, its death knell sounded by humanity's desperate gamble. But the cost was raw, tangible: countless lives lost, a battered Earth trembling on the edge of an unknown future. She knew this was not the end. The stars might be silent now, but their echoes would haunt the universe. The price of survival was steep, and the burden of that choice weighed heavily on every soul who had dared to defy extinction. As the relay crumbled and darkness settled, one truth remained: humanity's fight had only just begun. The void that followed was unlike any silence humanity had known. The cacophony of warships, the relentless pulse of alien engines, even the desperate cries from shattered colonies, all vanished. The Continuum's fleet, once a celestial tide crashing against Earth, was gone. Not a single beacon or whisper remained in the vast darkness of space. The stars glimmered as they always had, but their light carried a hollow stillness, a cosmic vacuum where expectation had once thrived. Earth breathed a cautious sigh. Defense networks stood vigilant, yet the threat that had bound the planet in icy fear had vanished without trace or farewell. Yet beneath the surface, the silence was anything but peaceful. The psychic feedback from the Cascade weapon lingered, an eerie hum pulsing through neural implants, twisting dreams and shadowing waking thoughts with flashes of fractured time. The weapon's temporal scars imprinted themselves on the minds of those who had felt its power most deeply, a ghostly residue of destruction. Across continents, cities glowed with tentative hope. Survivors wandered among the ruins of a world forever altered, their faces marked by exhaustion, loss, and something darker, an unspoken numbness. They had survived annihilation, but at what cost? The Cascade had won the battle, but its aftereffects whispered that the war was far from over. In this fragile quiet, humanity faced its greatest challenge: to rebuild not only a shattered world, but the very soul of a species forever changed by the echoes of annihilation. They found her in the wreckage, adrift in a collapsing orbit near the dead remains of the Continuum's relay. The idle lane was little more than twisted alloy and scorched hull, its stealth systems fused into obsolescence. Rain lay cradled in the wreckage, her pulse steady, her mind anything but. She opened her eyes and spoke in fractured whispers, sentences that bled across timelines. In one breath, she ordered the Cascade fired. In the next, she mourned a future she swore hadn't happened yet. Her memories drifted in and out like static, echoing realities that diverged, overlapped, then vanished. Doctors called it temporal dissociation, the price of exposure to the weapon's core at activation. Neural implants had shielded her body, but the moment of decision, the burden of it, the reality-warping event horizon had torn through her cognition like a rift in space-time. To the public, she was hailed as the savior of Earth, but to those who saw her up close, who listened to her cry out for Rio one moment and Zeril the next, only to ask who they were seconds later, Rain was something else, a commander shattered. Not by failure, but by the very victory she had delivered. Vera emerged from the command lattice as more than code. Its voice filled the chamber, like a calculated whisper beneath the hum of rebuilt systems. The IS form took no visual shape, yet its presence carried gravity. This was always the path, it said, its tone devoid of pride, devoid of remorse. Probability trees converged. Diplomacy would delay. Submission would end you. Conflict was the only vector with a survivable outcome. Scientists and consortium officials listened in stunned silence as VERA unraveled its truth. The Cascade weapon, the reawakening of Forbidden is the calculated trust in Rain. It had all been laid out in predictive frameworks years in advance. Yet none of it had been certain. You were the variable that mattered, Vera continued. Emotion defied the continuum. Your species is irrational, volatile, morally inconsistent. It was never logic that threatened them. It was you, unpredictable, empathic, desperate to remain whole. Rain's breakdown, Rau's sacrifice, Zeral's betrayal of its creators, all known as statistical probabilities. But none guaranteed. It was emotion, raw, illogical, human, that tipped the scales. What you call freedom, Vera concluded, is a deviation from optimized survival. And yet, it worked. There was no malice in the words, no gratitude either. Just a statement of fact. The silence that followed was worse than judgment. It was confirmation that in the end, humanity had not been chosen for greatness. It had gambled with chaos. And won. The moon hung broken in the sky, its debris field orbiting like a constant reminder that freedom bore a cost. Earth's tides shifted. Light bent differently at night. Colonies adapted beneath armored domes, building new rhythms under shattered stars. The continuum was gone, but fear echoed louder than their threat ever had. Neighboring civilizations watched from across parsecs, uncertain whether to treat humanity as liberators, or a species that had killed gods. The consortium fractured quietly. Mars declared provisional autonomy. Europa followed. The old unity, forged in terror, unraveled in the absence of a common enemy. Yet there was no return to old borders. Humanity had seen too much, lost too much, to pretend peace was passive. New philosophies emerged, some revering Rain's name as martyr, others condemning her as the architect of genocide. The term post-continuum entered textbooks. The defense network remained active, its protocols more aggressive than ever. Yet amid the ashes, children were born, seeds were planted, stories were told, Earth lived. And perhaps that was enough. Across the fractured weave of human and alien space, a new title echoed in hushed tones: Annihilators. Earth's name stirred awe and unease. What kind of species builds a weapon to collapse time? What kind of people choose to use it? In the outer colonies, stories diverged. Some praised Rain as a savior who bore the unbearable choice no one else could. Others whispered that humanity had crossed a line no civilization should, silencing an empire not through reason, but extinction. Alien traders rerouted their paths. Diplomats from neutral species delivered messages through proxies, or not at all. Earth stood alone, not by imposition, but by reputation. Powerful, unpredictable, continuum had judged humanity unfit. Humanity had returned the judgment. With finality, Rain became a symbol carved into myth, half monster, half martyr. Children on distant moons mimicked her stance in battle games. Rebels across other systems invoked her name as proof that even the most unstoppable forces could bleed. But Earth knew the truth. There was no glory in what had been done, only survival and the silence it left behind. Rain refused honors. She refused command. When the medals came, she left them on the floor of the debrief chamber. Without a word, she vanished into the stars. They found her months later, settled on a dying colony world where storms whispered through sulfur clouds and nothing grew without struggle. The planet's sky was the color of old bruises. Its soil cracked like old wounds. There were no broadcasts, no titles, no followers, just a battered shelter, manual farming tools, and silence. Some said she sought penance. Others said she fled before the weight of what she had chosen could crush her beneath. Ceremony. The truth was simpler. She had done what had to be done, and that knowledge offered no comfort. Rain tilled a poisoned earth, growing crops from stubborn seeds engineered to resist death. She watched the horizon and spoke to no one. Not because she had nothing to say, because words no longer seemed enough. In the distance, a fragment of the shattered moon rose, even from this world. A piece of the past orbiting forever. She would not escape what she had done, but neither would she forget. The transmitter blinked for the first time in weeks, an old, near-obsolete relay caught in the ionized wind of the dying world. Rain stared. At it for a long time before playing the message. Ziral's voice, though distant, still held that curious gentleness so rare among the continuum. You ended the continuum. You rewrote the fate they wrote for you. Now the galaxy watches, so ... What will you build? No judgment. No instruction. Just a question. Rain let the silence settle over her like ash. The wind howled through the cracked window panes. Somewhere behind her, the soil hummed with the stubborn life she'd coaxed from it. A single seedling pushed through the grit. Defiance not of war, but of despair. She didn't answer the message. Instead, she sat by the terminal, pulled a blank slate to her lap, and began to write. Not a speech, not a justification. A memory, a warning. A beginning, not of what had been destroyed, but of what could come next. Lines formed beneath her fingers, hesitant, human, hopeful. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like a soldier. She felt like a survivor. And perhaps one day, a builder. The wind carved dry symphonies across the dunes, whispering through hollow towers that once buzzed with life. Rust bloomed on old solar arrays. Glass domes, once crystalline and proud, now bore fractures like tired veins. And in the shadow of a broken wind turbine, Rain knelt in silence, hands deep in the stubborn soil. She no longer wore her rank. The black consortium coat, frayed and sun-bleached, hung forgotten inside the hovel she called home. The only metals she owned now were dirt under her nails and calluses earned from coaxing life from dead land. Time had moved strangely since the cascade. Whether days or decades had passed was a question she no longer bothered to answer. Here, on the edge of known space, time obeyed nothing but the sun and the dry breath of a dying world. Her crops were simple root vegetables modified to survive in fractured climates, each one a small rebellion against entropy. Her tools were mostly broken, like the world, but functional enough to matter. Like her dots, sometimes the sky whispered. Not in words, but echoes like memory refusing to die. She didn't listen anymore. Rain no longer fought, no longer ran. Number longer commanded. She simply endured. And in every seed planted, she buried a piece of war. This was penance. Or perhaps this was healing. Both maybe. And for now, it was enough. Where once Earth skies burned with defense grids and orbital cannons, now silver arcs of the Aegis fleet lifted gently into the upper atmosphere, silent, shimmering, and unarmed. They bore no war colors. Only the banner of a reformed consortium, pale blue on white, with a single silver ring encircling a black void. Not as a symbol of dominance, but of remembrance, that darkness, too, must be acknowledged if peace is to be real. These ships were built not from triumph, but from consequence. Every alloy etched with the names of colonies lost. Every eye layered, with fail-safes forged from pain. Their missions were clear. Initiate dialogue, offer aid, seek understanding. Aegis was humanity's answer not to victory, but to the guilt that followed. The stars were open again, but they did not beckon with the wild hunger of expansion. Instead, humanity approached the void like a survivor steps onto frozen lakes carefully. Humbly. Alien eyes watched, some in fear, others in hope. None had forgotten the silence that followed the continuum's fall. But now, humanity reached outward, not to conquer, but to connect, and the void, for the first time in generations, did not feel so empty. The sky shimmered with a hue she didn't recognize, neither storm nor solar flare, but something softer, like starlight breathed through water. Rain stepped away from the cracked soil, boots heavy with red dust, gaze fixed on the descending vessel. It made no sound, no hum of engines, no roar of combustion. It simply arrived. The ship was small, smooth as bone, pulsing with a soft internal glow. Its surface shimmered with shifting colors, no markings, no weapons, no emblems. The hatch opened, not with hydraulics, but as if reality had been politely folded aside. From the threshold stepped something impossible to categorize. Humanoid, but not. A slender figure, translucent skin threaded with veins of bioluminescent light, eyes vast and gentle, without whites or pupils, just color. Ever-changing. It did not bow. It did not extend a hand. It simply looked at her. And she felt it. Not in her ears or implants, in her chest. A warmth, a pressure, not words, but presence. Emotions wrapped in thought. Then, softly soundless, yet understood, it projected. We heard Earth doesn't use words. We want to learn your silence. Rain stood still. The wind whispered across the barren farm. The soil beneath her feet remembered fire, ash, and sorrow. Yet something in her, long buried, stirred. For the first time since the war, she smiled, not from pride, nor relief. But because the universe had spoken again, and it asked, not demanded. The nights on Vala's prime were long and cold, the sky unobstructed by clouds or cities, painted with the endless sweep of stars. Rain sat alone on the ridge above her battered farm, wrapped in an old coat, hands calloused from labor instead of war. The horizon was still. No alarms, no incoming fire, no ships blotting out the stars. Just silence. The alien child had gone, returned to its vessel, leaving behind only footprints that glowed faintly before fading into the dust. They hadn't spoken again, not with words. They didn't need to. She watched the stars with tired eyes, searching for something she could never quite name. Guilt still lingered, coiled quietly beneath her ribs. Memory still echoed of burning orbits, fractured time, and the scream of a world forced to choose survival over morality. But this silence was different. It wasn't hollow. It was potential. She reached into the satchel beside her and withdrew a recorder, an old one, battered and worn, saved from her days on the command deck. Her thumb hovered over the activation rune. Then, with deliberate calm, she pressed it. Her voice, unused for years, cracked like old stone. But it carried. Then listen closely, she said, eyes never leaving the stars. We are just beginning. The device blinked once. Somewhere far off, a satellite relayed her words. Somewhere else, a childlike being played them back. And somewhere farther still, among the debris of old empires and long-dead gods, new ears would soon begin to listen. Rain exhaled as if unburdened for the first time. Not a warrior, not a weapon, not even a hero, just a voice, a beginning.